Hi, my name is Jeff Rhodes, and welcome to another video about Office 365. This one's similar to an example that I did in my book, but it's one that just came up this week. So we're going to really talk about a form that you then uses Power Automate to load the information to SharePoint, and I've covered that before. But the main innovation here is we want to just show the most current version of whatever they filled out. So if they change their answer, we want to store all of them, which is one reason the Microsoft Forms solution is a good one as opposed to Power Apps. But we want to go ahead and store the most recent one. So that's got a little bit of gyration inside of Power BI. So let's get started. So a little quick about the book. You can get anywhere you order books, including on Amazon here. So check it out. So let's start with form. So this is going to be a really simple form. So I'll just call it information request. And in the real one that I did for this is I recorded the name. But I'm not going to do it here because this is my personal Office 365. So the only person I could do is myself. So that doesn't do a whole lot. So I'll put the email address in there instead. And I could set anybody can respond, but either one doesn't really matter. I'll just do that. And then, one that was important is we wanted to not check this one response per person. So obviously the minute we do it anonymous, that doesn't come up. But if in the real one, we want to let somebody come back later and change their answer. So I'll just change it to there. And so let's just add something in. So first one, I'll just say, please enter your email address. And again, in the real example of this, we didn't do that because we could record who it was after they authenticated in. And then we're going to say, please answer this question. I'm not going to necessarily tell you what the question was, but I'll just call it option 1. We can just do option 1, option 2, option 3, option 4. That's fine. Make that required as well. So that's the entire form. Okay, and we can preview if you want, but I'll wait till we get there. So let's talk real quick. Why do I want to use Power Automate and put this into SharePoint? So a couple of reasons. So first one is if you share the form with anybody, so you can come over here and share it and then share a link to collaborate, which gets them to this spot. But if you do that, then they can come in and actually delete the responses, and come over here and delete all responses when they look at the results. And then you've basically lost all that, data. And, I don't feel that comfortable with important data that we don't necessarily have a backup and somebody can just go in and, intentionally or not, delete that. The second one is in the environment that we're looking at, we have some users who may be on a detail or something like that where they don't have access to a form or a computer that they can fill it out. So somebody's got to fill it out for them. But in this solution, it only prompts the Office 365 account. But when we get to SharePoint, as long as we lock that thing down to just specific people who have rights, they could add a new record for that person if they got an email or something with the person's info or some sort of phone call. All right, so let's go over to SharePoint. So I've got this just sample site. We'll go to site contents and we'll add a custom list. And I'm just going to do a blank list and I'm just going to call it information responses. And I'm not going to show it in the site navigation. And it's really actually important that we lock this down quite a bit. So I'm going to come in and go to list settings so we get a little, we can get it exactly what we want. So the first thing we'll do on this permissions is we'll stop inheriting permissions. and then we're going to give everyone the rights, and it could be contribute or edit. Turns out that contribute's a little bit less of rights. They can't mess with the columns and so forth, so we'll share that. Now a real important point now, and we're basically using SharePoint as a data source, but it's possible somebody could guess the site or somehow find it, and so it's real important that we go in and because it didn't even put it under my recent, so let's go back to site contents for a minute. And we go to settings again, and we go into advanced, and we change the access. Again, somebody who's anonymous, they wouldn't be able to get to this site anyway, but in the way that I used it in the real world is, they could get to this site, but we want to make sure that they can only see their own data if they did find this site in the first place. So that's real important. So we'll say OK there. All right, so let's look. In this case, I don't want title, but I'm just going to call this email instead. And it doesn't really matter. We're using a flow to fill this out anyway, so whether I make it required doesn't really matter. And I'm going to make another column. Now notice there's a created column already, but I like to make it my own, because it will bring a completed date. So I'll bring that over. I'm going to just bring that as text. I actually like to just do it straight as text so we make sure we don't have any problems with the flow. And then when I get to Power BI, I'll format it. So I'll do that. And then of course I need the what they answered. And I forget now what I called it. I wasn't paying attention. I just said, please answer this question. So I'll just say question. I'll just say answer here. Now you got to really be careful. If you have, like in our real world one, we had a whole lot of text that kind of came through. So I made it multiple lines. But in this case, since I just said option 1, option 2, I can do single line as long as I'm sure it's not more than 255 characters, because then and you see that right there. Otherwise, the flow will fail. So be really careful there. All right, so that should be everything we need. And again, now in our design, what we're going to do is just have this get added from Power Automate. So let's jump over to there, go to my flows, create a new flow from automated, and I'll just say information response to SharePoint. And you see it kind of already notice when a new response is submitted, that's what we're going to do, and I'm going to create. And I pick a form, information request, and then I come to form as well, because it turns out I have to then get the response details. So I'll do the same thing, and I only have one choice here, the response ID. So that's pretty straightforward. You've seen that on other videos. And then what I want to do is come in, put in SharePoint, and I'm going to create an item. And then I have to tell it where it goes. And I think it's this Platte Canyon one. We'll see. No, it wasn't. So since I don't know for sure, it was the 542 one. Remember, we saw that on the list. Actually, I'll just select it here. What's that one? Got two of them with the same name. There we go, information responses. And then what's cool is it will show me the thing from the form. So I can just say, okay, please enter please answer this question. Oh, I forget. Oh, please enter. Oh, yeah, that's right. And then the responder's email. I thought that I turned that off. I guess it's showing that even though oh, this will be blank because it's anonymous, so we can't really use that. But if we could, that's the one we would pick, and we wouldn't have to put the respondent's email, but we should get the submission time in there. And that's it. So we save. All right, let's go try our form and let's see if it works. So we'll come over here and preview, and I'll just enter my .com, and I'm going to say option 1, and I'll eventually change this to another choice. So let's do another one, and I'll just say b.com, and I'll do option 2, and I'll submit, and I'll do another one, b@c.com, and I'll do option 3. All right, let's go over to Flow, come over here and see if it's got it. Looks like it's succeeded, so that's good. Let's go over to, go over to our SharePoint site. You can see, okay, that's working. I got those, I got my dates, got my answers. So that's good. And let me go answer that one more time. I'll go back to my original email. And let's say that I change my answer from option 1 to option 4. So I go back over here and reload. See, I'm in here twice, and this is a slightly different later time. So that option 4 is the one that I'm going to want. All right, looking good. Let's go over to Power BI. I've got it open already. Let's do SharePoint. I'll do a SharePoint online list. I like to do beta. I'll copy that so that I get exactly what I want. And I don't need these advanced options. I'll get all the columns, so that's fine. And I want this information responses. You can see we're getting our data, so that's good. Let's move that up, and I'll load it. So it shouldn't take long. And first what I'll do is set this up without, with just showing all the data, and then we'll come in. So I'll transform the data to see if I do a couple of things. So the main thing, notice this says ABC here, so I want that to change the type and make it a date time. And as long as that one does, the rest of this, yeah, I don't really need to do anything else. That all looks good on email, so let me close and apply, and we'll do just a really quick visualization. So there's really not much that we can do, but I usually like to put a card in here. I'll put it at the upper right, and I'll say, I'll grab the ID in there, put the count. I like to read, oops, I didn't want that. I come in and I'll just rename, and I'll usually call this number of responses. Put that in clipboard in case I need to use it again. So we'll do that, and I may put a slicer on for the who did what. So let me find where my slicers go. I'm blind for the moment. Oh, there it is. So put that over here as well. And we'll add on the answer. And since I only have 4, I won't change it to a drop down. I'll just do like that. And then I'll put a pie chart as well. Again, so we'll put the answer in there. and the ID. That's the count. Paste that in there. Get it nice and big, and then we'll probably, let's do one more of those. And we'll show the email address just in case we want to. Actually, I don't want to do that. In the real version of this, I had like a, you know, the organization, so I could have done that as well. Yeah, it looks good. Let's put a table across the bottom, and we'll put the email and the answer. Maybe put the completion date as well. Oh, and I always hate that when I break it out, so I'll put that as get rid of the date hierarchy. And sometimes I'll get rid of the time. In this case, I'll leave it on there just so we can show. Notice that it's given both of the of my answers. So, and I may rename this and call it status. All right. So if we just wanted to show, just wanted to show all the data, we'd be good to go. But we only want to show the most current one of the person. So we got two of these guys, which we don't like. Okay, so we need to just get the most recent one. So let's go back to transfer data. And actually, I really should, let me go ahead and save this. And I'll just call it, make a new folder, and we'll just call it information responses. And show you good practices by saving before we get too far into that. Let's go and transform the data again. And let's go over to transform. And we want, the key is we want to group by. So this is kind of a trick I found online, so you've probably seen it as well. So we're going to go advanced, transfer, and we're going to call this one all data. And we're just going to get all rows. And it doesn't have one. And then we're going to add an aggregation. And I'm going to call it MaxDate. And we're going to get the max of the completed date. So this is the key, is it's going to give us a new column that has whatever the latest date that we have. So let's look at that. And now we need to split out, just get all our data back. So we can come back here and go ahead, and we don't really need all the stuff, but we just need, because we already have the email, so we want to just, let's uncheck that, and we don't need the original column names, but we'll get the completed date, the answer, and the ID back we need for sure. And we could get all this other stuff if we wanted to. There we go. So we get our thing. So we have a completed date and we have a max date. So we're making progress, but we're not quite there yet. So we go in and add a, whoops, I need to get off there. There we go. Add a conditional column. And I'll just say is latest entry, or I'll say is latest response. And there's a couple ways to do this, but you can kind of see where we're going. So if I'll say if the max date equals, I need to do the column, if it equals the completed date, then I enter true, else I enter false. So you can see, okay, our later one, our first one, 12:27 a.m. is false, but the second one, 12:27, oh, I'm looking at the max date. Sorry, here's the completed date. The 12:26 one is not the max date, so it's false. The 12:27 one is the max date, and it's true. And then since it still says 1, 2, 3, I'll come over here and change type and make that a true false, just so it recognizes it. So hopefully that makes sense. If not, definitely watch the video again, or you can check out some things. So we're going to apply changes. Nothing's really going to change yet because we haven't used it yet. But now what we can do is all filters on this page, I can get is latest response and only take the ones that's true. And then see what's happened. So I've moved this. I only got my last one, and I eliminated the entry ones, or the earlier one, so that if somebody came in and changed their answer, we could go back and look, but our dashboard would only have their most current one. So that's it. Hope that you enjoyed this, and look forward to seeing you in a later video down the road.